welcome to Learn, Think, Share.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Dalit.
Good morning. Today we're going to talk about the power of lifelong learning in personal and professional growth. So my first question to you is, why is lifelong learning essential in today's fast-changing world?
Actually, we are living in a knowledge society, especially the work that we do. We are in the knowledge space, and that's what we do. We create programs and we try to add value to others through a new mindset. So the the one observation that I have usually, one thing I do all the time is observe very keenly. So not only observe straight, but also peripheral vision, and also understand what people are trying to say without speaking. I think most of the times we lose out when we try to speak too much. And when we begin to listen, then at that time we learn. And nowadays the opportunities for learning are so much. AI has definitely helped in learning, and people, they don't have to search. And also people have become lazy to use even the thumb now. They speak. So learning opportunities everywhere. Mr. Gordon?
Yeah, no, very, very true. In the martial arts community, we have the saying that we say that a true master is always a student. And as simple as that is, it's difficult to do that because as you raise up in the martial arts and business, you become confident, which is part of the nature of the job. You have to exude confidence. So it's hard to be a beginner or have a beginner mindset in learning. But you must, because even though you had success to get there, things have changed. So if you succeeded to be a CEO, 5, 10 year path to get there, that's a fast track. Things have changed in the past 5 months. So you have to change. You have to be willing to continue to advance your learning to keep up.
How can someone start a habit of lifelong learning without feeling overwhelmed?
Change the mindset. Change the mindset. Number one, forget that you know everything.
Yep.
Number two, remember the first sentence. So, so if you forget, if you start like a baby, children are the best learners, and I'm always fascinated by children because they observe their parents and they learn. 50% of learning is by observing, and remaining 50% is through actual instructions or training. So you can do not go to a course to learn something, but you learn more by observing your peers, and that's the whole purpose of university system. And unfortunately, the instruction side has died out too much. Everything is online, but in-person experience is the best experience.
And going back to what we said in the answer to the first question, you have to be humble. You have to go with a humble nature. Like Ali said, don't go like you know it all. There's the concept that we know it all. We never will. There's so much knowledge, and there might be even a different perspective on something we've known all our lives that we didn't see or didn't look at, and then someone else gives us a new insight. So just go humble, go with an open mind, and go prepared to listen. Especially people who have a lot of expertise, they want to talk and share their expertise, which is great. But you're not learning when all you're doing is sharing your expertise.
Actually, I will add to a point. You said humble, and most of the people don't know the definition of humble. And there is a sage known as Prabhupada. He said, to not be anxious for the satisfaction of being honored by others. That's the real definition of humble. And people who are watching should rewind the tape and read it again. Because people don't know humble, like bowing down or being soft. No, the most arrogant people have been very soft in behavior. The most arrogant people I've met, and unfortunately, people who are in significant positions, they're trained to look humble. They look humble, but they're not. So the best way is that just remove all expectations of any type of honor. Like give honor to everybody. Don't expect anything back in return. That's where you begin.
It's a great point. Um, Now, what role does critical thinking play in turning learning into actionable outcomes?
The word critical thinking itself means you have to be critical in how you think, not others. Oftentimes we use it on others. Oh, he said something, let me dissect it, but you did not see that who you are is what you see in others. If you are an idiot, you're going to see idiots everywhere. So the again the mindset training is there, because you have to firmly be convinced that I am a small child and I am there to learn, and then you teach very well. Believe me, if you are a learner, you teach very well. So if people who have never learned and want to be the coaches, how can they teach? Because they never learned themselves first. So good students make up good teachers, and, and a good teacher never thinks that he's a teacher. He thinks he's a student.
Yeah, and everything has to be a complete package, and that's what we've brought together is the learn, think, share. So you learn it, great. Lots of people know lots of stuff, but then you have to think about it. Like I said, you have to critically think about it. And then if you're leading, you have to think, how do I present it to others? Some leaders say, I present it, they have to get it. There's a certain truth to that, right? People need to rise their standards, but you as the person who's communicating need to make sure they understand that they get your point, and then if in a corporation saying that they can enact upon it. So if you say great thoughts, great ideas, your team doesn't get it, you're not going to have success. So you have to critically think through it and say, okay, how can I make this a success through my actions, through my words? Then that's the key to the learning and the thinking process.
Richard, you mentioned the word corporate. There is a wrong notion in the world where the corporation is treated like a person.
Mhm.
It is a very bad model. Corporation can never be person.
Mhm.
Expecting humility from a corporation is almost foolishness, or an organization or institution. But people who run the corporation, they have to practice these things. Then the organization appears to be like that.
Mhm.
Organizations are not persons. They're not designed to be humble. These personal qualities don't come to corporates. So if somebody wants to transform the organization, they have to transform the leadership first. That's why all our programs are meant for the leadership.
No, absolutely. It comes down to the people which set the culture. Like we talk about, it is the culture that's set up by the leaders, by the workers, by the people. Absolutely, but it starts with the individual learning
Individual
and
at the
taking
top,
and sure,
from
absolutely.
the board members. Board members. See, what has happened is the individual decision making has been transferred to the corporate, the group of people.
Mhm.
Now, group of people can't decide anything. They can have a common minimum program. They can have a consensus, but then actionable points don't come out from a group of people. It's always the I which counts first. It's not we. Wrongly taught to us, we. The moment you say we, you're saying I'm not responsible, because you're taking the harshest decision and say our team, our board has decided. You do not say I'm deciding it, and that's the problem. And that's why I prefer all the corporates would ideally to behave like family businesses.
Mhm.
Family businesses succeed because they have ownership of their reputation.
It's true. Yeah, you brought me back to my conversations with my martial arts instructors and integral part of my schools, and I had a bunch of them, and I would always get their feedback. We'd have our meetings, and then I would tell them, I said, I'm going to take all your feedback. I said, but I will make the final decision. And they were cool. They said, we'd expect it no other way. so, so we were very clear about that. They gave input, and I said, I will make the final decision. They're like, make perfect sense.
People like to be led.
Because it makes sense, like exactly what you're saying. They were like, "Why would we make the final decision? You're the decision maker. We'll give you the
No,
best input we can."
yeah, Galit, I'll add to your point. Like, not that everybody wants to be led. Actually, people don't want to be spoon fed.
Mhm.
There's a difference.
Mhm.
Like, I don't want a leader over my head. I want a mentor. I want someone who can inspire me. When these things differ, because people don't understand the difference between a leader and a manager. All the schools create managers. Leaders are someone who are born with that trait, with their previous karma or whatever it is, their life they had, and they're naturally empathetic. You don't have to train them. Be empathy. Oh, so cute, so nice pant. It's not the work of a leader. Leader can be harsh too, like a mother. Mother can be harsh too. And I think the only one message we want to give from this show is learn through humility, basically.
Mhm.
Learn through humility if you really want to learn. Because Vidya Vinaya, from knowledge comes humility. If it is not coming, then you never were intelligent in the first place, or you did not have knowledge in the first place.
That's a good point. Now, how can sharing knowledge amplify the benefits of learning?
Again, first learn, then only you can share. First learn, assimilate, then you can share. Just by regurgitating AI chatbot onto somebody's face to shut them up. Because many times people use knowledge as I know more than you, just shut
Mhm.
up. That's not works because it's going to destroy your organization, and also because it's all about the people in the end. The other guy, unless you have AI bots, and if you're badly behaved, AI bot is going to respond to you in kind because he's learning from you. So, but people are the people, and I that's why I wrote the message yesterday on LinkedIn that it's all about people, nothing else. It's all
Mhm.
about people, and I want governments to put restrictions on preserving people. We need to interact with people, more humans.
Yeah, along the same lines as the words, looking at the wordplay, I think people misuse the word sharing in the learning concept. So, like you were saying, if people come across as they learn something from AI or a little fact, now they're a self-proclaimed expert, right? So that doesn't mean to share, right? In a sense, you could share it, and like I'll share with Addie all the time. I'll say, "What do you think? This is what I heard." So I'm not trying to be, pompous or an expert. I'm saying this is what I read. Let's discuss it, and then that's how I'm able to take what I've learned and then get more information, get his feedback, who has more experience in the area, or maybe he knows someone that has more experience. So that's where I think a lot of times people get confused about the share. They think, "Oh, I've read it. Now I'm going to be an expert. I'm going to tell you." And then that shuts down learning. That shuts down any further learning. So to me, I share and say, "Hey, I read this point. What are your thoughts? You worked in this field, or you know someone in this field." And then to me, that continues the process of truly expanding your learning.
No, eureka moment is bad moment. It's like, oh, eureka, I found it, and I will tell to the whole world. This is what the
Exactly.
schools are teaching. Be first in the market. Tell people, everybody, what you did. Show everybody. That's not the way people work.
Mhm.
The intelligent people, the businessmen. I'm sure many of the top business people will understand what I'm saying is that you first learn and learn to digest it first.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Then you rest on it, you sit on it. Like this is the way the body functions. You eat food, you get sleepy, you lie down, let the body digest, and then you wake up fresh. That was the whole point of having the most important thing of our life. See, it's the only thing we put inside our body willingly. You can't have a knife into your body, no. Food you take on your own. So, and how the body reacts to it. It teaches us a lot. You eat the food, let it digest, and then it is digested, then you go for sports. You don't go eat food and straight away start playing because you're going to vomit. Something is going to happen to your stomach. Same thing happens in the knowledge, is that you learn something, you internalize it, sit on it, breathe on it, and then share at a right moment.
Mhm.
Otherwise you'll be called a Mr. Know-all. Like some people accuse me, but but I really, I only speak when it's needed. You have seen me. Otherwise I stay quiet. Hardly I speak, other than YouTube shows.
Okay, this brings me to the next question. What are some common barriers to lifelong learning and how can they be overcome?
I think the everyone has 24 hours in a day. Everyone has. But there's some people, they use those 24 hours to do great things. And examples are all over us. Probably our grandmother. I won't go public examples. I'll go your personal life. Our grandmother, our grandfather. There was somebody who inspired you and they could manage their 24 hours in a much more productive way. So everyone has 24 hours. It's the art of moving all priorities together. This world is so complex, everything has to go together. And so prioritizing effective time management requires a different type of mindset. What is really good for me? And if I ask somebody a question, what is good for you? I don't think so people will be able to answer that. Like when I asked that question to that team over there, what do you like? Very difficult question. People don't even know what they like. And if I ask them what's good for you, it's very difficult question because they don't know the you part first. If they knew the you, then they would know what is good for me.
And the big barrier that comes into play, which we're working to help people with, is to expand your horizons, like we talked about earlier, especially when people become successful in a particular field. They don't want to go and do something that they're uncomfortable with, or they're a beginner, or they're awkward. Let's say, something simple like an activity, like a CEO who runs his company very proficiently doesn't want to go and take dance lessons because he'll feel awkward, and he'll make fun at him, or he'll feel it will demean his CEO status because he's fumbling around with two left feet. And so dancing is just a simple example, but it could be anything. They don't want to feel uncomfortable because they're so comfortable in their current profession or their current area of expertise, and then that will stop your learning. That will stop you from going into other areas because in most cases you're not going to be an expert in all things.
My answer to your comment on awkwardness is that just be yourself. You know, don't try to be accepted by all. It's never going to happen. Never going to happen. And if you're awkward, if you think you're awkward, like I think sometimes I'm awkward, but then I realize I'm right. I'm at least being honest. I'm just straightforward to people. And I think, believe me, people who are intelligent know that. You know, most of the business deals have not happened in perfect suits. I've witnessed it so many times in perfect suits or perfect setting. Many business deals happen at the roadside vendors, small shop. So, so just take the word awkward out of brain. Nobody's awkward.
No, I agree with that. My philosophy, be you for you, and it's all things. If you're a beginner, take a beginner's mindset. You're not awkward as a beginner. You are demonstrating the traits that occur when someone begins an activity. It's just like going back, and for us who are older, it was a long time ago. Just remember the first time you try to drive. Right? You study the books, you saw things, you saw people drive, and then you get behind the wheel. And I don't know anyone who just took to driving the first two lessons. It's a very overwhelming, especially if you teach someone. If you have kids and you try to teach them to drive, you understand how difficult it can be.
I tell you one my personal example. I was in my college and I was trying to prepare for a management school. It's a real incident. And the teacher and I that guy reported to me 10 years later. Okay. He asked me, what's a fax machine? I didn't know that in my college. And I thought, and I gave a long answer, and everybody started laughing. And we were like, we knew semiconductors, we knew something about it, but never used it. Like I'm being honest with you, never used it. And I gave very, very long answer, and everybody started laughing. And many years later, and I did not remember what I answered. I did not remember anything. But when I met him, and he came to interview, and in my company, I was hiring him, and he said, "Do you know I met you at one time?" He said, "I asked you this question, and you answered me this one, and today I'm sitting in front of you." And he's from one of the top management schools, and I said, "Tell me." And then I took him out, and we shared notes, and he's a very good friend now. But but and so you see where you have gone. I did not know the proper use of fax machine at that time, and but later on, when I was interviewing him, I was interviewing a totally different scale, different level.
Mhm.
And so, if we do not have learned it, the art of humility over there, and they all laughed, they made me feel so bad by laughing
Mhm.
at me, all of them. Like I was thinking, okay, I this is not a career for me, and I was like, many months I could not speak because I failed that interview.
Mhm.
And but then I realized, and I came back in a different way. And and I did not remember this incident until he told me. And now he's a good friend on my LinkedIn. If he's listening, he knows that.
Oh, great point. We're always going to have obstacles, and that's another thing. People quit. People run into a mild obstacle and they give up. So the true people are going to continue whatever obstacle you have, learn a way to get over it, around it, left, right, or through it.
Yeah, that's what the important word is respect. Don't make people remember bad experiences all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, well, this brings us to the last question of the day. How does lifelong learning impact society as a whole?
I mean, this is a if every person in the society knows, is responsible, has a learning attitude, then the society will have a learning attitude. There are certain societies in the world who are far more peaceful and happy. One is Japan, another is many parts of India, Israel, many other countries are there, many small countries are there, many pockets of USA, very learned people, very societies. And you can see the outcome is that society is behaving in a very nice way. So, like recent example was I was at Kumbh Mela, 660 million people attended that place. No stampede, no violence. One or two incidents may happen, but understand the population 660 million people attending in 30 days. So, it all, if people are learned, society is learned, period.
And just like again, every time we do these shows, it continues to stack because that's our message at Learn Things Share. It all comes together, and the humility and respect. Things have changed again. U.S. reality. When I grew up, we respected professions. We respected doctors, we respected lawyers, we respected law enforcement. Because they were learned. They were learned in the law enforcement field. So unfortunately, we've gotten away from that a bit. And we'll get back to that, and we're going to help with that. We work with law enforcement and military. But again, there was the respect for those that were learned. There was respect for people who achieved things through their knowledge, and how they conducted themselves. And so I think that's the key to a society learning, because when you learn, you respect the people who go before you. You respect your teachers, your mentors, your professors. They're revered in societies. The most knowledgeable people throughout history have been revered for that. But again, they shared willingly. They were humble. They were giving back to society through their knowledge. They weren't using it to overlord. So there's lots of things that go with it that we've confused over the years. And as in history, the most learned person wasn't always the most well-paid person. Even today, in society, are people who have very extensive educations are not paid the most in society.
Well, modern education is question mark. And I
Mhm.
can always say that people who have been the most learned and oftentimes most unsuccessful is not because of them. I will say that
Mhm.
is because the society doesn't value today's society extremely knowledgeable, honest people.
Mhm.
Somebody with a good commercial brain is going to make use of it. So, but don't get disheartened. Because society runs on these people, simple, honest people. That's who run the society. Like the wise man from a small village is the one who carries the whole village together.
Mhm.
And the same happens to the country. 10 wise men run the country. So countries don't run on crooks. Countries run on honest people, high integrity people. If something is intact, same thing goes with the corporations. You know, corporations don't run on some shady deals. I mean, majority of deals are good. That's why the corporation is running.
Correct.
So, principles of business can be different. That is a different matter of discussion altogether. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gordons. Yeah. Bye.